the FIRE movement.
Yes.
And the different types of FIRE movement.
Yeah.
I know you're more of like a coast FIRE movement. 52% of Americans are not at a good point to where their retirement funds are not where they need to be.
I do want to share some things with people because I do believe that I can actually help them.
Tell me a little bit, like, what is the FIRE movement?
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about the different subtypes.
Yeah, absolutely. So when
With a little health and a little wealth and a lot of love, that's a life that we live. Suits and scrubs.
Hello, everybody. This is Zachary SVP. Welcome to another episode of Suits and Scrubs. A little bit of health,
A little bit of wealth.
and a lot of love. I'm here with my absolutely gorgeous wife and co-host, who is a double certified in internal and in obesity medicine. She's also exploring functional and aesthetics. And we started this podcast because of it. Pretty much we want to document our journey and just get the information out there. Emily is a avid movie trivia socialite. She knows anything about everything about
All kinds of
movies.
useless information.
Useless information. Like we're in bed and she's over there looking up somebody. Anyway, she also loves to hike. So all you hikers out there, I don't necessarily like to hike. I don't know because I'm just so damn tall. I don't know. It's not my thing. But we believe that people should be empowered with information, quality information, to make better decisions about your health. We believe food is medicine, managing your microbiome, as well as your hormones. And we'll talk more about that as the series progresses. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over into Emily.
Thank you for that lovely introduction, honey.
We'll get better, I promise, guys.
We're a little rusty.
Yeah, two followers, so bear with us.
So we're going to switch gears a little bit this week. Last week we talked more about my story and background and why I'm here. And this week we're going to talk more about your background and why you're here.
Nobody
And
cares, but I will be happy to talk about that.
That's not true. So we discussed last week that you came from humble beginnings and really made a name for yourself. You really, worked hard and reached that Coast Fire number, which we'll talk about, what that means and the definition of the FIRE movement in general a little bit later on this episode. But you have really surpassed, a lot of goals that people at your age would never dream of. So I think you're an incredible person. I think your background really, really shaped you into who you are. And so I think it's important that people know where you came from and know kind of your drive and what brought you to where you are today and why you are an expert in the field and why you can really give them information. Your biggest driver is trying to educate people to be able to be financially independent,
That's
to be
right.
able to retire early, ideally, but making sure that they aren't working until they're 80 years old.
That's
They're able to live comfortably and have that nest egg. So I just would like to touch on the fact that you have a lot of different plates in the air. You are you work in finance. You have managed over $1 billion to date, which is very impressive, especially for your age. You are a real estate investor. You have several properties. You've driven me crazy with managing those properties at times.
Oh man, it's not easy.
But you really think outside of the box. You are, I think, a great person to really lead people, to financial independence. So we are going to start off, I think, by talking about your background and talking about maybe your childhood. Tell everybody a little bit about what it was like growing up in the Bigby household.
Again, I don't think anyone cares, but I'll be happy to share that. Well, before I start that, I think you're absolutely right. I think people they should have access to quality information around retirement and how they can be financially free. And I define financially free as being able to make decisions without worrying about the financial stressors in your life. And so I know there's some statistics out there. I don't have them memorized per se, but I know we talked about them earlier. Do you remember what those were?
Yeah, I mean, just talking about the retirement health, I guess you could say,
Right.
of the
Yeah.
country in general, that 52% of Americans are not at a good point to where their retirement funds are not where they need to be.
Right.
30% are kind of in that danger zone,
Right.
danger retirement zone. It's the numbers are only increasing.
That's right.
They've increased from the last year and last few years, which is, it's scary to think about, getting older and not being able to retire at a decent age, just
Right.
because you don't have that savings. You're just living paycheck to paycheck, and you're not able to, to do what people once were able to
Yeah.
years ago.
I mean, the rising costs, the inflation, insurance. I swear this episode will get better. This is like a doomsday episode. But no, I think people should have access to quality information around retirement. And, people are saying that there's a silent depression going on. And what that means is property values. A lot of Gen Zers can't afford housing. They're begging for a recession so they can actually afford a home. Most people have most of their assets in real estate. I'm one of them. And it's getting harder and harder to acquire real estate and wealth. And so, yeah, I do want to share some things with people because I do believe that I can actually help them. And so I'm going to take everyone back from when I was a wee little boy. Growing up wasn't easy. And I know my parents will probably listen to this and they understand exactly what I mean by that. We struggled a lot financially. My parents were very, very young when they had us. I'm not going to disclose my age, but my dad personally had an 18-year-old at my age. And so that's not easy. We grew up with our parents pretty much. And they did what they needed to do to survive. So I remember like bits and pieces, but as we were growing up, my mom made less than $25,000 a year and she was a nurse. And we lived in a space probably a little larger than our den now. We had one bathroom, one bedroom, kitchen, and was living right behind her friend. So Mom, you're listening to this, her name was Binky, Pam, I believe what we called her. And we lived right behind her house. It was like a garage apartment. And we were fortunate because we actually lived there. And I remember sleeping on the floor, and my brothers were sleeping in the bed. And, at the time, you just don't know any better. And I went to 11 different elementary schools, in and out, going back. I was always a new kid, so I really struggled with that. I struggled with, my identity. And then we finally landed in Columbia, South Carolina, Irmo. And a lot of those kids were actually more affluent, and we weren't. And that really put a damper on our upbringing. I remember this one time, I was sitting in class and, some kid in front of me would lean back and he put his hand down and I had a big hole in my jeans and he put his hand on my naked knee and I just saw him cringe. And the way he looked at me, I just didn't like it. I didn't understand. And that kind of just carried with me, and I didn't understand different class systems. As a kid, you don't appreciate those things. My mom was homeless. There's a lot of times where, we did not have a home and we lived with one of her friends, Janice, who's not with us today. I consider her another sister, my mom's best friend at the time. We lived with her and it was a blessing. And so, as I watched my parents really lived the American dream. My dad had worked at the same company, met my other mom, Karen, if you're listening. Hello. And they met at work. I don't know how they do it, but they live together, they work together and all that. And they have really,
Impressive.
it is, yeah. They have really stepped into that, and they worked at the same company. And my dad is an incredible salesperson. And they know the ins and out of their business, probably the best. And the reason why that branch does so well is because of them. It's a relationship business. I'm so proud of them. You know, they come from nothing, and to work that hard and to realize the American dream. I love it. And my mom, the same way. She was in nursing, but she got her business degree, and she really applied herself. And I just watched her just get accelerated into her career. And that was just really, really inspiring. And I didn't necessarily want to struggle like that. And I think my older brother and younger brother were all the same. And my sister, she's very motivated as well. You know, she kind of followed my footsteps. So Hannah, if you're listening, finance, that's where it's at. And so, yeah, so that's just a little bit about me. You know, my grandmother was the first woman to sell $1 million in real estate. And that also was pretty inspiring for me. And she could sell ice to Eskimos, you know, and she just had that Southern charm, the Southern drawl. And so, yeah, that's just a little bit about my upbringing and what I recognized as something that I wanted to understand.
So it sounds like you've had a lot of good examples of people who have really worked hard.
Exactly.
You know, came from nothing, but made something of what they had. How do you feel like that's shaped you and really has, you know, how did that put you on the path that you're on today? How do you feel like that impacted you?
I believe that education and knowledge is everything. That's one thing that no one can take from you. And then that may sound a little cliche. Yes, I know, but I'm living proof of that. And so as I explore my journey, I wanted to be very financially literate. So when I was 19, I was still in college. I worked with a senior vice president, had the best mentoring opportunity. I call him the gray hair appeal. I was the new age. And this was before search engine optimization and all of that was kind of on the cutting edge. And I worked with him in college, and I was researching, talking to Mall of America, Coca-Cola. It was really exciting. And I just learned so much from him. And I just realized I had the capacity to think differently than most people. And think,
You really do think differently, I would say.
I probably drive you insane.
You do,
you
but...
got to put your seatbelt on, girl, because you on for a ride. More ways than one, if you know what I mean.
But you do. I think that you don't take no for an answer.
I don't.
You think about solutions that most people wouldn't think of.
Yeah.
I think it makes you very unique, and it's part of the reason why you've been so successful. Tell me a little bit more about just your college experience, some of the stories that I've heard. It sounds like you really started at a young age with saving money and finding ways to earn money, kind of unique, non-traditional ways.
Yeah. And so in college, I didn't really learn about money. Yes, you took your finance course, your entrepreneurship, your marketing. I was an entrepreneurship major. I graduated from Winthrop Eagles. But I really didn't understand personal finance until I picked up a book that actually my mom gave me called The Total Makeover by Dave Ramsey. I really started my journey there. I was so blown away. And then I went into Stuart Orman. Then I read like Investment for Dummies. I was insatiable. I love to learn too. One of the greatest things that we have in common is we're some learners. We really are though. We really do enjoy learning, and we enjoy learning together. This podcast was an experience.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to learn finance, and if I was financially literate and very well versed in how compound of interest and all that. I started with Dave Ramsey. I understand his 7 baby steps, I believe, 9 baby steps. I can't remember. I paid off all my student loans before I took my big job. I was making $35,000 working in a call center. If you ever worked in a call center, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I thought it was big money. I thought I could make that money for the rest of my life. But I realized something was missing for me. And what was missing for me is I wanted to be celebrated. And this is like I grew up where internet didn't exist. So, I mean, internet has eliminated a lot of barriers to entry. I know I said that in the last episode, which pretty much levels the playing field a little bit. And there's new waves of that, and AI, and we'll talk about that in a second. But, I believe that based upon that, I just dove headfirst into Dave Ramsey's 7 steps. But I feel like there has to be another way.
I remember, a lot of my med school classmates were huge Dave Ramsey fans,
Yeah.
but it just felt very restrictive. I remember kind of the
It
lifestyle.
says rice and beans. You eat rice and beans
Yes.
every single day. I was on the ramen diet back then.
The life that they lived, especially because at the, med school time frame, you're already well into your 20s, and
Right.
the people who are the same age as you are, they have their big boy and big girl jobs, and they're, able to go out to nicer restaurants, and they're
Right.
able to grab drinks together. And
Well, Dave Ramsey calls that doc-itis.
Yeah.
I actually watched a few of those. I'm a big Dave Ramsey fan still. So
And I not to dog him at all, but
No,
it just
no, no.
It seemed so restrictive. It seemed like constant. We're already experiencing delayed gratification. It just seemed like constant delayed gratification, which I know the main kind of reason for this episode, or the main topic, is to talk about the FIRE movement. And the different types of FIRE movement.
Yeah.
I know you're more of like a coast FIRE movement aficionado. So tell me a little bit, like, what is the FIRE movement?
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about the different subtypes.
yeah, absolutely. So when I felt like Dave Ramsey was just moving at a glacial pace for me, and so I actually have my own method, which I think FIRE movement is really aggressive. There's different types of FIRE movement.
And what is FIRE? What is the FIRE movement? What does
Yeah.
that stand for?
It stands for FIRE, which is financially independent, retire early. I'm all about that, by the way. But I think that if you talk to a lot of people, and there's so many videos out there, just Google it, Reddit's. Let me tell you something. I'm part of those Reddit groups. If you say one thing wrong, you'll get downvoted. Your karma will go down. It's a tough group to
Crowd.
It is a tough group to have a conversation with. Something I'm excited about. Downvote. I'm like, oh, okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it is a movement. It's a lifestyle, and
It's very popular, I think, with our age group.
Yeah, it is. It is because people want
Different way of thinking about things.
It is a different way of thinking about things, and people want a different alternative as it relates to their wealth and their options. And I can go into this. There's a lot of. I feel like there's a lot of waves that come up for get rich quick schemes. I don't believe in get rich quick scheme. A millionaire status before I'm 40. I'm not saying that to brag, but my net worth is well beyond that. I'm very proud of that. I hit my coast number. My coast number I'm very comfortable with, and
So what is that? What is coast?
Good question. So coast means just like, think about like when you're coasting. What does that mean?
So you're easing into the FIRE movement? Is
No,
that kind of
no. When you coast, you just kind of slide on in.
Yeah.
So coast fire. So the 4 types of fire. I know you asked that question. I didn't necessarily answer it. So coast fire is when you just coast through after you hit your FIRE number, which means you saved enough money for retirement where technically you don't have to put any more money in there. The power of compound interest is a powerful thing. I believe in real estate, which I'll talk about that. Not real estate's not for everyone. The second version of FIRE is a lean FIRE. Now, these are your rice and beans until...
Those are more of your Dave Ramseyers.
No, not necessarily your Dave Ramseyers. They are rice and beans. You save enough money until you put that money in investments and you live off 4%. So these are like, Gaddy, if you're listening, you are a lean FIRE, honestly.
Okay.
Where she sold her house, she lives in a van with her daughter and husband, and they moved out in Texas because, Jeff is a firefighter. Shout out to first responders. If you're listening, I think it's a great thing that you do that. He's passionate about it. But anyway, so that's a lean FIRE. There's a fat FIRE, which are people who have really, really high earning and they may, like, for example, I was looking at an article today, and the surgeon, which are very high paid jobs, but they don't get there until like they're 40 almost.
Yeah, it's a long process.
It is. And we just talked about that last episode. So if you missed that, go check it out. But no, and she was talking about, she bought a studio, she paid $700 a month, and they usually save about 40 to 50, 60% of their money, sometimes more. And they put money down where they have 10, 15 million and you know, and more, you know. I'm not saying I'm Fat Fire. I'm not sure if I want to explore that. There's Barista FIRE. You think about barista, you kind of like hop around. You do like side hustles and side jobs once you hit a certain like semi-fire kind of how it is. I think there's 4, right? Lean, fat, barista, coast. Yeah, so those are the 4 fire methods.
So this is all new lingo for me.
Yes, it is, honey. It is.
I am what we would like to call financially illiterate, I would say.
We're changing that. We're really changing that.
It's a slow process. It's a slow change. But I can just remember even when you encouraged me to buy my own house, you know, my first property before we got married. And we had a friend who was trying to counsel me on, you know, getting the right mortgage. And I just remember feeling so inadequate, not knowing terminology, not knowing, you know, what I was doing. Honestly, I had no idea what I was doing. I was completely clueless. And it's really, you know, it's scary when you're in your 30s and you've gone through professional school and you don't know how to invest your money, or you don't know how to be an adult, basically, in that aspect. And so you've used a lot of different terms that, quite honestly, are making my head spin a little bit.
Yeah.
So
well, to be honest with you, like a lot of people don't know what the fire movement is.
Yeah, I mean, it's
like people at my level do not like. Or when I say my level, I don't mean like that. I mean like people in financial services.
Yeah,
they don't understand what fire movement is. It is a movement. Like when I say I have my own method, it's a method. Movement is more powerful. It's more action based, right? And there's a lot of people that are really adamant about it. So, you know, if you are listening, there is a method that I have. It's my life's work. I'm looking into Karen. Like we named our cameras. Like Karen is my mom, my second mom. So I'm looking into you, Karen. And I want to say that in the gift method, I believe you can accelerate your wealth. Dave Ramsey's too slow for me. That's me. If you're a Dave Ramsey fan, I'm not knocking him. I started there, guys.
So gift is something that you have come up with on your own, kind of based on your own experiences.
Exactly.
And your successes.
Exactly. And fire is too aggressive for me. You know, there's other financial gurus who I like Chris Crone is one who really hacked into the real estate. You know, he technically had a $1.6 million net worth at 26. Like that beats me. But I guarantee you, Chris Crone did not travel to 30 different countries and ate in the best restaurants and did all that.
Yeah, there's got to be balance, right?
There is balance. Because my thing is you don't get your 20s back, you don't get your 30s back, so on and so forth. In any stage of your life, you have to have some sort of balance. And I'm still discovering that. There's times where if I see a project, I'm going for it.
Oh, I know.
Just like this.
I know.
Just like this.
I know. See, for me, you always gotta think about the fact that I could be crossing the street and be hit by a bus tomorrow. And do I want to be spending every single day of my life pinching pennies and saving for that, you know, the next day, for the, you know, for my future, when you don't know what your future is going to be. But I think there's a balance. I think that you want to be responsible and you want to make good choices so that you don't end up being 65, 70 and feeling forced to work, and sometimes work very physically demanding jobs that you want to be able to enjoy your golden years. So
that's right. Well, the thing is, your parents said this to us. You know, we invited them to Savannah for our anniversary. We absolutely love Savannah, by the way. We will be there one day. And they're telling us that they went to Waffle House and these women were probably in their 80s working. And they asked them why. Well, I have to. And so, like, don't be like them.
Lights on.
Right, but don't be like them, guys. So, you know, if you are doctors listening, the gift method is for you. I would say this. Don't print it off, but it's like 20, 30 plus pages. You know, if you don't love it, it makes a good doorstop. I wish I had it when I was 18 years old because it would have accelerated my thinking and helped me with my capacity. Now, one thing Dave Ramsey did teach me, and I say this probably not as often as I want, but at least monthly, you have to live like no one else to be like no one else. And I like this year, like I didn't tell my parents this and my brother and sister, we had so many financial situations. You quit your job, we're doing IVF, which you didn't give an update on that, which we'll talk about in a second. Very expensive. It's like 10 grand. We're doing some
More than that.
Yeah, more than that. Yeah, it's really, really expensive. And, your continuing education is tens of thousands of dollars. This podcast studio was really expensive. And so we didn't do Christmas to each other and we didn't do Christmas for our family. And, I remember reading a passage in the Total Money Makeover book by Dave Ramsey. And he said, yeah, you got to tell your family, like, I can't do Christmas. I have to save $1,000 from my baby step one. That's very admirable. That's boundaries. I guess we didn't like openly communicate that because my dad just sent me a Christmas gift not that long ago. But no, I'll have a conversation with them, and this is the first time they're hearing it. My bad. I will talk to y'all about this. But no, like we just kind of reserved ourselves from Christmas gifts because our financial situation is just a little bit different. I'm very cash poor. I will say that. Like in the beginning of the episode, when I talk about my net worth, I'm very cash poor. So I just want to share that with people that you can live life, accelerate your retirement, and design the life that you love. I know I've done it. I know last episode we talked about it. We look at our pathway. It's you went to school, 4 years undergrad, 4 years med school, 3 years residency. Now you're in primary care. You're in your 30s. You have $250,000 of loans. Costs you $35 a day.
Yeah, don't remind me.
Well, I have zero in loans. I have passive income. I have tax shelters. I have pretty high earnings. And I've been to 30 countries. I've lived the 20s. I lived my 30s. And you can too. You can too.
And I think that's your, a real passion of yours. You want to be able to give that information to other people, especially people who might not have the same kind of access to, to financial guidance and, and education. So
I think that, if this ever becomes something, and me and Emily talked about this, like we definitely want to start a charity in what we believe in and the specialties that we strongly believe in this. It'll just take time, but I strongly believe that financial literacy, like health and wealth, is inclusive for everyone. Everyone should have quality information, but there's so much information out there. I'm telling you what, I've seen reels, I've seen TikToks. Don't invest in your 401k. That's a bad thing. What?
That's the scary, concerning thing about social media and the internet is that anyone can post anything, and it's so hard, with financial information and health information. It's hard to know who to trust and
fact check.
Which and how do you everything can seem so legitimate now because anyone can post a convincing video.
Absolutely.
On
and it gives you a reason why. Like say, for example, talk about the gift method, which I'll dive deeper into that later in the pilot, but it's GROW, which stands for G, which grow your skill sets. I is initiate financial foundations. This is where you should understand budgeting, savings. You should know what a 401k is. So HSA. You should know what a mega backdoor Roth is. You should know what a Roth IRA is. Guys, go to suitsandscrubspodcast.com, download this ebook. I explain everything, and I call it the staircase to financial independence, meaning what should you do first? Should you save first? Dave Ramsey said you should save $1,000. Honestly, I agree with him. I think you should save 3 to 6 months. And I go down and down based upon your specific situation. And I'm a big fan of this, though. So I get a lot of people asking me for investment advice, which I never tell them what specifically to buy. I'm a big fan of ETFs. I know a lot of people push mutual funds.
What are ETFs?
ETFs are exchange traded funds, ETF. They pretty much follow the index. So if you think about our economy, at the S&P, you can buy very specific, industry specific
I'm gonna have to look all
funds.
this up later.
Well, you got me. I'm a walking Investopedia
No.
here. But no, and I'm a big believer in international. This is what I do, y'all. Y'all don't have to do what I do, but this is what I do. I do international. I do energy. Like, energy's not going anywhere. Come on, y'all. Energy's not going anywhere. International, these emerging trend. We can talk about the national debt, but I refuse to talk about the national debt. Because the reason why I said that is because we owe a lot of money to China, and there's a lot of emerging international companies. Like, for example, there's a lot of jobs going overseas, and so that's something to think about, like the rising middle class of other countries, like how that's going to impact. And when you have the economy bustling, it breeds what's the word I'm looking for? Social and culture. That's the word I was looking for. It breeds culture.
Yeah.
And so the culture, then it breeds other things, and people have disposable income, and they can do more things with it. So I'm big in that. Tech is the big one that I also do. And then, if you just, honestly, guys, if you Google the top 10 ETFs, you can see like what they do. You can look at the Yahoo Finance. It's not hard. Most people, Cody Sanchez is one of my favorite people. I don't know if you guys know her or not, but you love her too. Yeah, we watch her all the time. I'm a huge fan of hers. She's way further than me in my group, which is fine. But her and I, like, we have the same belief, and the belief is there's a moat around the financial services industry. We know the jargon, the accounting, the finance, blah blah blah, and it really is very simple and basic concepts. And sometimes it's just asking the right question. And so I encourage everyone to go on our website, download that guide, and walking through those 4 steps and accelerate your financial freedom. Like, there's things that I talk about. I house hacked. Sorry, I get really excited when I talk about these things. And we're about 4 or 5 kombucha ciders in. So my bad. But seriously, like, I house hacked until I was 30 years old.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about your multiple roommates that you had.
Yeah.
Your multiple female roommates that you had in college.
Well, not in college. That was a social
or post college.
That was a social experiment because I had many failed relationships up to that point. I want to see, like, maybe I should live with women just to see how.
That's a whole other podcast episode.
Oh, geez. So, Lindsay, if you're listening, Brianna, we are so close. Actually, Brianna, like, she worked in financial services. Like, I think she still does that. I haven't caught up with her in a while. We're so good friends. No lines were crossed. I don't know about you guys.
We digress.
Fellas.
We digress.
Well, fellas, I will say this before we digress. Anytime you say another female's name, there's this little thing that happens, this little eyebrow thing.
The little twitch.
The little eyebrow just raised. Even my wife, who is so laid back and chill.
No, I love Lindsay. There's no hard feelings there. I just think it's just funny hearing about, ways that you saved money, just, having people pay rent.
I did. And I was making like 6 figures at the time. And you're asking me, like, well, how did you do that? Well, guys, I believe that there's 5 things that you should do. And I'll talk about more of this in the next episode, but just really quickly. One is you should research. If you really want to accelerate your financial freedom, there's many ways you can do it. Let's say you're a firefighter. You really want to do that. We have a guy named Jeff. He moved to Texas, and it's Texas, Florida, and California, where they actually get paid a pretty damn good salary. That's a location strategy. But and I talked to someone at work recently, and they said their child's very interested in EMT. God love them. God only knows why. And they come from a family that's very well educated and very successful. But they understand financial literacy. So what they're going to do? They're just going to put $100 a month away in retirement and just live through the compounding interest. They don't want that lifestyle. They want to help people, which is very admirable. The other thing that you can do is researching the top industries. The top paying industries is finance, healthcare, and technology. If you look at the top 10 countries in America, it's all technology companies.
Yeah, it's on the rise for sure.
It is.
So you mentioned you just have to know the right questions to ask.
That's
and
right.
and a lot of us
Financial literacy.
yes, a lot of us that aren't in that financial sector maybe don't know the right questions to ask.
Right.
And all of this can be very overwhelming, a new lingo, a new language. Where would you start?
Yeah.
Give us kind of a, layman's terms
Yeah.
of where do we even start, and maybe give us some success stories.
Yeah. So it really starts with your budget. I believe in a zero-based budget. Now, I've been kind of off that recently, but I need to get back to that, especially now more than ever, because our financial situation did not look like it did. Went from two incomes to one, two high incomes to one. And so that's where I would recommend folks to start, is to really make sure they understand. And zero-based budget, what that means is you know exactly every single dollar you're spending and where is it going. Even if you have $100, $200 left over, are they going to savings, or are you just putting in your checking account?
You're a whiz at Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, if people are interested, I actually do have a budget template that me and Em have. And I'm like, I had all the pivot tables. I don't want to like turn anyone off. So listen, like I don't know where this journey goes, guys. I wrote an ebook. It's a lot of information. It really is my life's work in 20, 30 pages. How I accelerated, how I lived a life that most people dream about. And meaning, like, I traveled the world. I done it all. Like I had no limitations because I chose experiences, and I was saving so much. I've been investing since I was 15. I started my own company when I was 15, 16. You know, I sold new and used electronics, games on eBay. You know, I know if Mom's watching, she knows exactly what I'm talking about. You know, I bought a little camera and everything. I had like a little write-off. I wrote little personal notes selling that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I've always had that.
You've always been a hustler.
Yeah, I've always been a hustler. But I'm not saying that you have to be a hustler to maintain. But, you know, maybe you turn the TV off. Maybe you try to figure out a side hustle. What's your passion? This is the passion of ours. We've invested a lot of money into this. I don't plan on making money from this. I really want to help people and just see where it goes.
And I think we talked about this, and you're a huge proponent of this, that, it's been a bumpy road getting this podcast started, and knowing, trying to find our voices, and, it's completely uncomfortable for me. I hate being, the center of attention. I hate, public speaking. Gosh, I would pass out in high school just getting up to give a report or a 5-minute presentation. So this is
a true story, y'all.
well outside of my comfort zone, but something that you always drive through is, you don't give up. It's a 5-year plan. It's something that, the first few episodes or the first few trials might suck and nobody will listen to them, but you'll find your voice, you'll find, you'll find your groove. And I think that holds true to anything. It's not just a podcast, or, you can really apply it to anything. You got to keep pushing, and you can't keep trying the same thing over and over again. You've got to try it a different way.
That's the definition of insanity, is doing things.
Yes.
And I know people probably heard that multiple times. But there's a few things that you said they just want to hang on. I know this is uncomfortable for you. I know this is something that you did not ever foresee for yourself. I believe, like, we're very Christian based. We are. We put God first, then family, then everything else, right? And I believe there's a reason why God put you in my life, and vice versa. I also believe that we have a mission and a duty and a responsibility. And I'm getting chills thinking about this. I'm seriously passionate about the information that we can share with people to help them. And then listen, guys, I'm a big fan of many shows out there. I'm not going to drop names. I've done a lot of research before we launched. And some people are selling this information, courses that's $300, $400. I'm giving it away for free. And it's at any income level. And I may turn some people off, especially when it comes to, you have to make a certain 100,000. I do recommend that before you go to F, which is Forge Investment Strategies and the gift method. I do think you should make $100,000 or more. And here's why. I think you should invest every single resource you have. When you're 18 up and beyond, like you have in medical school, to have your high earning potential. And I believe the same thing. You should absolutely invest everything, whether it's a certification, whether it's an industry. I'm so inspired by my younger brother. And like, I'm a finance guy, so most people probably won't relate to that. Oh, money, I come from nothing, guys. I come from nothing.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't have
think
a
that's
mentor.
what honestly the catalyst, I think the fire that was lit, which I don't have a personal experience of. I mean, I didn't live in a family where it was, we lived paycheck to paycheck, where you really didn't have anything. You know what that's like, and you never want to be in that position again. And I think that it's a sad thing, but it's also a beautiful thing that you appreciate what you have and you want to give that to other people. And
I do.
I think that's, it really is what drives you. I think
It does.
you're not doing it out of greed or self-recognition. You really do want to help people.
I do.
have the success that you have.
Yeah. And so I'm telling anyone, any backgrounds, any walks of life, I did not have the best competition. I am fortunate because, I did go to college. My mom pushed me for that, even though I didn't want to. I wanted to be a musician, and I honestly don't even pick up my guitar nowadays, which is pretty sad, but it's one of the hobbies that I will probably pick up later in life.
Yeah, I think your parents and your grandmother really taught you a lot. I think you struggled, and like you said, you grew up with your parents because they were so young, but they were hustlers too.
They were hustlers. I tell you what, my mom started so many businesses, and my dad was just a charismatic guy that he could just sell, and my stepmom, and it's a beautiful thing. I don't know if I should say this on the podcast, but she was a showroom manager, and every time she got a lead that was hot, that was like big time like development, she sent to my dad. And so it was like a power couple. I was like, dang, y'all crushed that. And they deserve every success they've had because they truly have worked for it, and watching them work for it it's just inspiring. And and part of this journey is, I know we didn't dive deeper into these topics, and really, guys, I really want you to download this resource and to look it through and see if it can help you. At the very least, you can ask better questions. At the end of the guide, I tell you that, this is not financial advice. Every person is unique to yourself. So, for example, we live in Charlotte. Charlotte, North Carolina is our home base now. And it's one of the fastest growing cities. You have to stay on top of trends like this. Mm-hmm. And we acquired so much, like not many properties, but they're higher end properties. And before we got married, and we'll talk about this in the next episode because I've had it part of one of my segments. I did ask M to buy a house, and we went all in, and we'll talk more about that in that episode. But this house is appreciated so much that it can pay off her student loans in 2 years. I'm going to say that again. In 2 years. If we went to the Dave Ramsey method, she would still be in primary care. She would drop every single dollar into that, and it would probably take her 5-6 years to get there. And yes, you can say, oh, you have to live somewhere. Yes, I understand that. We can move back into the damn rental. But we sold this house right now. Not only that, I wouldn't do that because we're getting like 2.5% of the interest rates. And we had a construction loans. We built 600 square feet. Nobody wanted to buy his house. Like, the Charlotte market was hot. It was during COVID. It was hot. And I found a builder. I put a spreadsheet together. I said, I will put this spreadsheet together for the bank so they can approve it. And we'll work in there. And if we're over, then I would, fund the money. But this is a great investment.
And it definitely was.
It was. And it's going to continue to increase. There's like 4 new houses down here that are $1 million, $2 million a piece. And I'm telling you guys this because it's not just to brag. It can be done. So we have like 400-something thousand on this house now, but it appreciated probably to 600,000-700,000, And I'm going to do this later, and I'll talk more about this. But I'm going to cut the property in half and put a tiny home in the back and have that as a short-term rental. Short-term rentals are the best for accelerated appreciation for tax benefits. Me and Emily have moved $150,000 out of our own income into these tax shelters. I'm saying this for high earners who are listening. And yes, if that's not you, you still can do this. There's other plans out there that you can be, if you're comfortable being nomad and put 3 to 5% down underneath the FHA program. I forgot what that means, but you can take advantage of that. You can live in your house for a year and save enough money to put another down payment down, 3 to 5%, and keep doing that. One of my mentors, like Stephen Cooley, who is a huge prominent Rock Hill, which I know I'm talking about a lot of details, but I'm just giving specific examples
And
of that.
It's not, it's not an easy path.
It's not.
Being a nomad, but
We have done it.
it's, it's better than the alternative.
It is better than the alternative. And I think if you look at our net worth, I think half of our net worth is coming from real estate.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in that. But again, like I didn't finish that thought earlier. So Charlotte is one of the fastest growing cities, yes. But if you live in this like a city like California, like San Francisco or New York, where it's so volatile, this is not a good strategy for you.
Yeah. It's definitely location
It is
dependent.
Like if you're in Nashville or Raleigh or these major hubs, and like one of my friends called me the other day and she said, well, there's this major employer coming down and I inherited my daddy's house and I was thinking about selling. Now I'm putting money into it, which I advised her to do. And she's out there. She's looking at asbestos. She's hiring a contractor and she's like, oh my God, this is not easy. Yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah. I feel like we're in that era where everybody kind of has to be a jack of all trades. You know, we're not in that mindset anymore where you stay with the same employer for, for 40 years and you retire with good benefits. You've really got to have your hand in a lot of different pies. So
like pensions don't exist anymore unless you're a government worker,
So I think it's, we'll definitely talk about that. And I know you're going to give a lot of, kind of breakdowns on the gift method and, give some more details on the FIRE movement during some future episodes. But if you could leave everyone today with, with one nugget, let's say.
One nugget.
What would you say?
Oh man, one nugget. Well, honestly, I would say to everyone is to, I think, have the capacity to think differently and to be financially literate.
Be willing to be uncomfortable. 'Cause
Absolutely.
Lord knows you've made me uncomfortable for the last 6 years.
But it has paid off.
In a good way.
In a good way.
In a good way. You don't grow unless you're forced outside of your comfort zone.
That's right. And I look at you in specifics, and yeah, I'm dropping numbers, but these are real numbers. And I do want to encourage people, like if you're listening to anything here today, if you want to know more about my real estate strategy or my investment strategy, like I won't give you investment advice because it's a violation. It is, because I'm not, like, I do have a Series 7 at one time, but I'm happy to grow with you guys. Like I thought about putting together a short-term rental strategy and what to do with Airbnb and how to set that up and all the systems I have in place. So that way you don't have to. And a lot of people sell this stuff. I don't want to sell this stuff. That may change in the future. So if you are early, no, but it might. But if you are early in, then I can share that. I'll share it to you for free. Just drop us a line, send us some contact information. Anything that we said you want to learn more about, like I'd be happy to share.
Well, I am excited to learn more.
I don't think you have a choice. And it's funny because
I don't have a choice.
No, but it's funny because like me and Em talk about this and like her eyes glaze over. And I talk to like a lot of couples. I'm looking at my camera here. I talk to a lot of couples about this. So like, is this not true? Most wives and women, and I want to be inclusive here, but most wives and women are the shepherds and the stewards of health in their family. They make the health decisions. They drive the families to health. But most dads are fathers, or men are more providers and protectors, and they want to share financial information. So when I'm having a lot of conversations with people before we've even done this podcast, is well, listen, my husband talks to me about this all the time, but I'm not interested. And then the husband's like, she's talking about kombucha and all the other, like whatever. I'm not interested. And so this might be a place for
Baking your own sourdough bread.
exactly. This may be a place for you guys to have that conversation and hopefully be entertained and learn something along the way.
Yeah, we hope that eventually, or frequently the topics will merge, because I think they're both integral parts of day-to-day life. I mean, obviously you need good health and, responsible wealth strategy to
That's right.
to forge on, to move forward. So
Yeah, and this is what I say to people is like, you have the Dave Ramseys, you have the Chris Crones, you have the Money Guy show, which I absolutely love. I love these guys. Like they're all, they all have good information. Like I don't agree with Chris Crone because he says you take money out of your 401k, there's a lot of tax and stuff like that. I don't agree with that. I think it's too aggressive for me. But he may be right. He could make more return. I don't agree with Dave Ramsey because he's too conservative for me. If Dave Ramsey gave us advice and he said for you to pay off your student loans, we could have done that, but we wouldn't have it appreciated our net worth. And at the same time, I do want to say this. M has saved, I think she started with like, I don't know, 10 or 20,000 or something in your retirement. And now she's like 200,000 plus in 2-3 years based upon what was offered in her company. But also we did Roth IRAs and we did some backdoor and I helped pick her investments. And so if you think about it, we would have saved and just paid off your student loans the Dave Ramsey way and been accelerated and aggressive with that. And your student loans are less than 5%, which is a good thing. We wouldn't have accumulated 400,000. So look at the spreadsheet. You have 400,000 and then 250,000 of student loans. At the end of the day, you netted significantly. And so that's why we're doing this.
So think differently. That's the end message of today's podcast.
Yeah. So she's bringing me on home. Think differently. I'm passionate about this, guys. I'm really passionate, and I really believe that these things can really help you. I really want to help people, and so we'll see.
Well, we will be tuning in to see what else you have to say these next few weeks. I obviously have to, because I'm going to be the MC for all of those episodes. So, but next week for our health episode, we will be talking about the gut microbiome and how it might potentially help you lose weight, among many other things. So make sure you tune in. And anything else that you would like to say?
A little bit of health.
A little bit of wealth.
And a whole lot of love. Thanks, guys. Until next time. Bye.
He's on the hustle, she's on the grind. There's no time to kill. For saving lives and new deadlines, and there's some holes to fill. With a little health and a little wealth and a lot of love. And that's a life that we live. Suits and scrubs.